Hello everyone, this is C5 and I'll be showing you how to change out the hazard switch in your C5 Corvette. It takes about an hour to do this little project. I started around 2:30 in the afternoon. Here's a selection of the tools that I used: a Torx 15, a 10, and a 7mm socket, a small screwdriver, and a couple of medium-sized screwdrivers. The power driver just makes things go faster. Start by cleaning out all the junk in your center console. Then pop up the two nut covers at the back end and remove those two 10mm nuts. Next, you've got to pop out this plate that your traction control button is located in. Use a flat blade screwdriver to pop it out. There are just two metal clips holding it in. On the traction control panel, there are two plugs to unplug. Each one has a little tab to pull to get them unplugged. This one requires a screwdriver. Here's a picture of the two plugs unplugged and the two 10mm nuts you must remove next. Now there are two Torx 15 screws in the ashtray area. Remove the ashtray first, of course. Here's a shot of the second Torx 15 screw that is hiding under the ashtray. Now you need to unplug the power plug into the center console. This one requires a small screwdriver to get to the tab. Here's what the plug looks like after it's out. Note the tab on the top. Your last screw is under this little panel next to the ignition switch. That's the temperature sensor for your HVAC unit in there, so be very careful. That's a Torx 15 screw. Now slide the center console back and flip it over. Unplug this connector that goes to the gas tank lid. Here's what the console looks like on its side. Now pull the back end of the main part of the center console up just a bit, pull up the emergency brake, turn on the key, and put it in low gear. Ease the whole thing over the gear shift and off, but be careful, there's one more connector to unplug. That last one is the power plug, or the cigarette lighter. It has a tab that you could pull up on with your thumb, like this. Now you've got the console out. Here you can see the extra insulation I added a while back. This really helps with the hot console problem. I got this double layer insulation at Lowe's for less than 20 bucks. Line both sides of the console and the top. Here's a better shot of the extra piece I put along the driver's side. I made sure it went as far forward as I could push it and all the way back, even with the driver's seat. Then I trimmed the top edge. Now it's time to remove the radio. There's a 7mm screw on each side of the radio to remove first. Now take a flat blade and pry the radio out of the dash. Don't try to pull it out by hand. You'll pull the front cover off. You've got to pry on both sides and ease it out. Go ahead and ease out the radio, but be careful, there's still a lot of cables on the back. Here's a shot of all the cables. There are 3 plugs plus the antenna connection. There's a tab on each connection to release, so it will unplug. Here's the big plug on the end. There's 2 smaller ones close to the round antenna connection. Here's the antenna connection. Be careful, it's pretty flimsy. Now it's time to open up the new hazard switch. This costs less than 40 bucks at the dealership. Note the tabs on top and bottom towards the front of the switch. Here's the part number in case you need it. This is for a 2001 coupe. I expect they're all the same, but I don't know that for a fact. To get the hazard switch covered plate off, use 2 small flat blade screwdrivers, one on each side, and ease it off. It should pop off with just a little effort. Look at the small green item in the mirror just above my thumb. That's the tab. You've got to press in with a small screwdriver. This releases one side so you can push it back into the dash to get it out. I used a large flat blade screwdriver to push it back into the dash. towards the front of the car. It took a pretty good whack of the heel of my hand to get it out. Work the switch down and pull it out of the hole in the dash frame. I pulled on the wires to get the rest of the way out of its hole and down to here. It takes some work to get it out of this hole. If you have large hands, you may not be able to get it. Ask for some help. Once you've got it out, pull it as far out as you can so you can get it to the connector. There's another tab to push on to get the connector off. Plug in the new switch and get ready to put it back in the dash. Remember, it goes in there just like this. The little slot where you see the light bulb goes in the lower right corner, just like it's shown. You got to get it back in the dash, oriented, just like this. It took several minutes to maneuver it back up in the dash and get it oriented just right. This is where those small hands and long fingers come in handy. Be patient. It can be done. Here it is. The new switch is in place. It took me about 5 minutes to get it back in there. Next, reinstall the radio, but before you screw it back in, turn on the ignition switch. Make sure it's working okay. Be sure to get that antenna connection pushed in all the way. Put it in last since it's the shortest cable. Reverse the procedure to get the dash back on. It's a pain to get the key fob through its hole and the console over the gear shift to get it back on. Before I reinstalled mine, I did a good cleaning job on all the console parts. That thing in the picture above the radio is my ham radio. It's mounted on a small bracket on the dash. Okay, now you're all done. It took me about an hour altogether, and that includes some of the time spent cleaning up the console and under the console while I had it out and taking all these pictures. Hope you enjoyed the video.